This will give you a bit of a sense of how things are literally piling up. So we've got piles of aluminum showing up everywhere as they start finishing the job of separating out all the individual pieces. So you can see all sorts of them stacked up in there. They're being sorted so that these piles are different pieces that are all put together. These ones you've seen before. If you've looked at some of the previous videos, those are window frames that go around the super salon. Here's the remainder of the aluminum. So if you've been watching, you've been seeing this pile getting smaller and smaller as they go through and separate all the parts, and you're kind of getting used to how that works. I think you can see how these pieces have just been left in the plate for shipping expediency, but creates an additional job at this end, and is one of the benefits of when Laval has their own CNC cutter, which they're working on now. That'll be eliminated and the parts will just come straight out of the plates during the cutting. Here's an example. You can see how you utilize as much material as you can. So we're going to be using this is waste, and then we're going to be using this, and this is waste, or at least gets maybe repurposed. And one of the great things about aluminum is it's very easily recycled. So all of the waste gets piled up and resold and then melted down and reused again. I can't remember the number. I'll go look it up. I think it's something like only 20% of the energy required to recycle aluminum, take it, melt it down, and re-pour it, compared to the original first time making of it. So it's a very efficient and effective material from that standpoint. Anyways, we'll go have a look around here. You can see again another pile here. These are all topside stringers that run across for the most part, and they've now started to tack in the deck frame here. So this is all 5mm plate. That's the deck, upside down again, as you'll recall. And so this big opening here is for the engine room, and then an opening over there for the entry into the workshop. And they're now starting to line the plates up, so you can see that V-groove stuff we talked about before. And they've tacked it down on the underside here. You can have a look at it, and got those held in place. So we're lining things up with the laser, making sure everything's lined up with this, and then we'll start to put the frames on top of this and stand them up vertically, and you'll see that when that starts happening. Alrighty, take another quick little tour here. You can see that the pile of pieces being cut out of the plates is growing and growing and growing. This poor gentleman here is largely responsible for doing all the cleanup. You can see his implements of mass construction here. The burr grinder and a flapper disc, and then there's also a router that gets used, as we've talked about, for doing the rounding over of corners. You can see it as an example here. Enough to take the edge off it, sometimes for welding and other times for shape. This shot from a different direction. We've just walked forward boat-wise anyways, up here to the bow end of the boat. These are all pieces for frames that are about to get all welded up, and this is the plate for the front of the deck at the bow. This big opening that you can see here is going to be the entrance to a very, very large hatch. Takes us down into the forepeak area. So to give you a bit of a sense of scale here, the master cabin starts about here and then runs, everything forward of this is just empty space for a foredeck locker. It's a very nice size. It'll have our chain bin locker in there, and bits of, they'll have a gray water tank and a black water tank from the heads from the master cabin, but otherwise is open for storage, and it'll get used up very, very well. And you can start to see here, it won't make much sense to you to get a bit more familiar with the boat, but the bow is going to come up together here, and the reason for the separation in here is that we drop the floor of the deck down to have a better drainage, slope drainage, as it goes forward to the bow, to get rid of all the muck from anchoring and so on. And then you can see these, like I said, frames that are the pieces of the frames that are here. These get welded up into that sort of like a picture frame sort of shape. You can start to see the work that we've been talking about before, to put a radius on all of these pieces here, partly just for safety and handling, partly for when they have things running through them, so they chafe a bit less on pipe. and tubing that runs through there, and sometimes for welding, like around here, to just give us a bit more access with when the welders are laying in their bead. You get better penetration, and you have to grind those away. So that's why you see this variation here. So this is oxidized aluminum, which is great. It gives a nice hard finish. This has been cleaned off and ground, and then over time that will oxidize as well. And we're just leaving everything like that. We have a no paint rule on this boat because these hands have to maintain the whole boat, and paint takes maintenance, and we're going to try to avoid as much of that as we can. And after a while you get to quite like, at least I do, it's kind of like teak, unfinished teak, just weathers to that beautiful silver color, and eye of the beholder, of course, but for this beholder, raw aluminum is a very beautiful material. All right, that's your update for today, and what are we at? 3rd of May. I'll show you with model drawings. They're pieces I can put into the blogs here as well, but this is a drawing that they're using here in the workshop to just give you an idea of how this is working. I've been getting a bunch of questions over just exactly how this construction works, but these are the frames that we keep talking about. So here's a frame here, here's another one here, another one there. You get the idea. Here's the longitudinal stringers that run lengthwise in the boat, and then frames run transverse or across or thwartship. Here's an example of how the tank tops that we've talked about and you've seen piled up work. And then if you look at this, these 2D drawings, these will give you an idea of the shape of the boat and just how the frames work. So this is frame number 2, right up near the bow. So we start with 1 being about 1 meter back from the very bow pointy end of the boat, and then this is number 2. Each frame's about 1 meter apart. In fact, exactly 1 meter apart. And so drawings like this will show you how we get the parts from the cutter. So this is one piece as it comes from the cutter, another one here, another one here, another one here, and then in the shop here, those get welded up to make this a continuous frame. And here's number 5 right now. They're all quite different depending on what's going on here and what's going on up above them. If we start to, you'll see how the shape starts to change as you go through the boat. You'll see the angle here, the profile of the bottom of the hull changing around, as well as the sides. By the time we get up near the top, it's quite close to vertical. I think, in fact, at 89 degrees at the deck that it forms an angle there. And so the waterline contact, which is what we care about for hull efficiency, is quite a bit smaller. So when you see the profile of the boat, you're seeing on the deck, you're seeing this up here because this is deck height, whereas the actual waterline amount is much, much smaller down here. And so as you can imagine, the drawings just go flipping through there more and more as we go through. This one will give you an idea. For example, now we're in the this is number 10, and so now we are in the super salon, as we're calling it. This would be the master cabin underneath of here, and this would be the floor, or sole, as we call it, in the super salon. This would be the ceiling of that, and then we've got the flybridge area up in there. So just give you an idea as you progress through these, how they work and how all the pieces start coming together. And then, like I say, you can sort of see a bit of a angled or perspective view of things right there. So I hope that helps a little bit, and I'll add some additional diagrams into the blog post so you can see them also.